Good day, everyone. I'm Sir Renan, your oral communication and context teacher. In our previous discussion, I gave emphasis on the process of communication as well as the elements of communication. And for this lesson, we will be focusing on the models of communication or communication models. Communication models or conceptual models are structures that simplify the explanation of how something or how a system works. Because communication is a process, as discussed in our previous lesson, the communication models will do a better way of explaining the process. So, understanding the different communication models or models of communication will enable us to have a better understanding or better grasp of the process of communication. The term model of communication refers to a conceptual representation that is used to explain the communication process. There are many and different ways by which we do the different processes of communication. Iba-ibang model, iba-ibang paraan kung paano natin ginagamit or ginagawa yung iba't ibang communication processes. And learning about the communication models will help us better understand the different communication processes. There are various models of communication, with each of them offering a different perspective on the communication process. And the first model of communication is Aristotle's model of communication. But before we proceed to the discussion on what this model is all about, let's have first a short background of Aristotle. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher and polymath. A polymath is someone who knows many different things, daming alam, during the classical period in ancient Greece. He was taught by Plato. So Plato was Aristotle's teacher. He was the founder of the Lyceum, the peripatetic school of philosophy, and the Aristotelian tradition. His writings cover many subjects including physics, biology, zoology, metaphysics, logic, ethics, aesthetics, poetry, theater, music, rhetoric, psychology, linguistics, economics, politics, meteorology, geology, and government. Aristotle has been called the father of logic, biology, political science, zoology, embryology, natural law, father of scientific method, rhetoric, psychology, realism, criticism, father of individualism, teleology, and the father of meteorology. While exploring the human nature scientifically, Aristotle developed a linear model of communication for oral communication known as Aristotle's model of communication. This model is unidirectional. It is a linear model. Linear model is one-way communication where the speaker sends messages to the receiver with or without effect. It's unidirectional. Senders here can only transmit messages, while receivers can only receive the messages. Taga-receive lang yung si receiver. No feedback. Feedback is not allowed in this particular model of communication. That is why it's called a linear model or unidirectional. Only one direction. Aristotle found the importance of audience role in communication chain in his communication model. That is why this model of communication applies to mass communication. This model is more focused on public speaking than interpersonal communication. This model is simple because it presents a simple communication acts, because the transmission of message shows only the beginning and the end, and that there is no interchanging of roles between the sender and receiver. That is why this is more focused on public speaking than interpersonal communication. No exchanging of roles. Diba sa communication process, the sender, once the receiver of the message gives a feedback, then he becomes the sender. Then the previous sender becomes the receiver. But in the case of linear model of communication, itong Aristotle model of communication, walang iba siya sa interpersonal communication. Kasi may audience nga, but it doesn't require feedback from the audience. The audience role here is just to listen. They are just mere receivers of the message coming from the speaker. Kaya tinawag siyang linear, unidirectional. Yung may interchanging of roles naman between the sender and the receiver is another model of communication yun. And that we will discuss next. This model is considered the first model of communication. Unlike the other models of communication, Aristotle's model is formed with 5 elements. What make up the Aristotle model of communication? These are the elements. First, of course, is the speaker. Another important element of this model, the speech, the occasion, the audience, and the effect. Aristotle's model is speaker-centered since the audience remains passive. Audience remains passive, tagapakinig lamang sila. The audience's role, therefore, is mere receiver of the speech. There is no feedback that is expected from the receivers of the message. Feedback is not part of the process, and the role of the receivers is only to accept information. They are also influenced or persuaded by the speech. That is why the speaker should then be prepared beforehand by analyzing the audience and the situation or the occasion to where the speech will be delivered to achieve the purpose or effect. Take note, if you are the speaker using this model of communication, you should always be prepared. You should be very prepared with your speech. Everything that you will talk about or give to the audience should be very comprehensive. Kasi the audience will not have any chance to ask from the speaker. They will just be listening. They will just be accepting information coming from you as the speaker. So, dapat yung speech mo should be properly made. And as a speaker, should be so ready with your speech. Okay, look. I have here the Aristotle's model of communication. We have here the 5 basic elements of this model. So the message will come from the speaker. Another element is the speech. What's the message about? The occasion or the situation. The audience or your receivers. And its expected effect on them. So what is this effect here? Will the message be very clear to your audience? It depends on how you prepared your speech. Kaya nga sabi ang speaker should be very prepared with the speech or with the message beforehand. That occasion is the situation. Saan mo ginawa yung speech mo? Saan ginanap yung speech mo? Is it on the graduation ceremony? Or during campaign? Or anywhere? Any other situations that need prepared speeches? In other words, this model is one way, that is, from speaker to receiver. There is no room for feedback. I repeat, there is no room for feedback. Kaya ibang-iba siya sa ibang models. Kasi yung ibang model, pwedeng magbigay ng feedback, may interchanging of roles. Sender to receiver, si receiver magiging sender, and vice versa. This is mostly applicable only in public speaking, such as campaigns, or mga political campaigns, or any other campaigns. State of the Nation Address, or SONA, binibigay ng president, and in television, or even in radio commercials. In those situations, we really cannot give feedbacks. We as audience, we as listeners are only accepting information from them or receiving the message from them. And that is all for this lesson. Thank you for listening.